Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first tech community event of the day. My name's Matt Call. I'm a product architect on the Microsoft Intune team, and I'm joined today with two of our leaders, Mayan and Jason. Mayan and Jason, do you want to give a quick intro about your background and what you do here?
Sure, I can get started. Hi, everyone. It is great to be here. My name is Mayan Berniv. I am a group product manager in Intune. My team focuses mainly on AI tooling for IT. I joined Microsoft just over 15 years ago. In fact, I joined what was then the Config Manager team and now is a part of Intune. I since then moved to other organizations and came back to Intune 2 months ago. My last few years were on the Defender team, most recently Defender for Cloud Ops, and I love where these two worlds meet, device management, security, and again, especially in the context of AI. Great to be here today.
Awesome. Good morning, folks. I'm Jason Rozak. I lead our product teams for Intune, so Intune Suite, and Copilot in Intune. I have been with Microsoft about 3 years. Prior to joining Microsoft in the Intune team, I was responsible for product at Workspace ONE. Looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, you two. So before we get started, I want to give a quick reminder that you can ask us questions directly live, sort of on the web, on the internet. Yeah, there you go, Heather. Heather's got the link up here on the bottom of the screen, aka.ms AMA inside Intune. So the first question I want to get started with is going to be based around our investments in AI and where we're looking at helping IT admins. I'll direct this first to you, Mayan. A lot of people are seeing a lot of change in their environments, and you lead our efforts in sort of infusing AI into the platform, into the Intune platform. So can you talk a little bit about the challenges your team's thinking about in terms of, what we want to solve for IT admins and how we think about helping IT admins with AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, AI is a revolution and it impacts every aspect of our lives. And work is a part of it, and IT is a part of it. We are looking to build AI tools that help teams simplify, secure, and scale endpoint management. Now, when we talk about AI in the context of IT, you can look at it as a range between tools that are assistive, that really help IT pros with their day-to-day operation, and tools that are automated. Today, in general, when we look at AI tooling, most are assistive. And this is where we're at in Intune as well. So those of you that are using some of our recent AI capabilities like Explorer are seeing it. Another example is in the agentic world. So the vulnerability remediation agent that is in public preview really assists IT pros with identifying the top vulnerabilities from Microsoft Defender vulnerability management and taking steps to remediate them. So these are some examples for how AI can be assistive in our day-to-day operation, and we'll see more and more of that coming.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're sort of highlighting the fact that, as the world's changing and as everything is getting faster, right? Not just AI, but, adversaries and the way that they morph into attacking organizations, or the way that new operating systems are being introduced by OEMs and by, Microsoft, and having to secure those things, really having somebody help you. The interesting part here is that these are all the ways that IT helps, or IT needs help in the way that they work. Jason, you lead our product team, and you and I sit in a lot of meetings and a lot of design efforts. Can you talk a little bit about the change and what that's meant to Intune as a team, and how we develop products, and sort of what that looks like for us internally as we try and forge this new frontier of AI?
Yeah, Mayan talked about the impact that AI is having, not just on our product, but just across the industry in general. So just like we see an opportunity to help admins reshape how they work with Intune, we're using AI to reshape how we work inside our product and engineering team delivering product. So we introduced something called the new production function. The idea behind the new production function is for us to evaluate every step of the software development lifecycle. So we're looking at how our PMs generate specs. We're looking at how our help desk supports the product, and we're starting to infuse AI into how we work ourselves. So as part of this, we just introduced something we call dedicated teams, where we take 90-day sprints from idea to GA to really start to use AI to help accelerate our velocity. The other one that's particularly interesting, I've gotten a lot of feedback over the years about the help desk experience. We are now taking what we call troubleshooting guides internally. These are kind of the documents that our engineers use when they write the code, to have AI agents more effectively troubleshoot issues, so that when you guys call help desk, you're going to have a help desk agent using one of our AI agents in the background to more quickly identify errors and logs, error codes, all of those sorts of things, but ultimately to help you get an answer to your question faster. So whether it's how we do our on-call rotation, how our help desk team works, the other one, our PMs are building prototypes now and not decks. We're infusing AI into every aspect of how we work to try and accelerate how we deliver product to you all.
Yeah, that's great. And Jason on the tech community is sort of asking a question here that's more focused on an exact scenario, but I'm going to up level it probably 1 or 2 clicks here. Management seems to be getting more complex, not less complex, and having to move faster with all of these new tools and everything that are coming out, literally changing underneath us. So to sort of wrap this up, do we see AI helping us reduce that complexity, and how do we help our admins sort of move faster at the same speed? Like Jason, you mentioned a little bit about what we're doing internally. Are there any other areas? Maybe we don't have any to talk about right at this moment, but any other areas that we're sort of focused on, lowering the complexity for admins?
Yeah, well, to Jason's question about scripts, so we do see a significant amount of scripts created at Intune. People use them for checking registry keys, running automations, remediating things, all sorts of stuff. Generally, I think about it in 2 ways. We have the generalist IT practitioner. They're probably not very deep in creating scripts. One of the things we're trying to do there with some of the assistive AI experiences that Mayan mentioned is using Copilot to help generate a script based off natural language. So if you're just a kind of a tier 1, tier 2, you're a generalist, you're not super deep in Intune, you can go into Copilot and Intune and ask Copilot to generate a script. So for example, you could say, hey, Copilot, generate a script that, turns firewall off, and it will generate the PowerShell for you. So we're trying to infuse AI to make that experience a bit easier. The other thing that we're doing for more of our experienced folks, like our MVPs that are really skilled and deep in script creation, is you can use Copilot to help validate your script. So it'll analyze the script, give you feedback, some of those things. But those I look at as short-term things to make scripting easier in the product. Look, long-term, we don't want you guys to have to use scripts, period. You should be able to use the declarative frameworks, the policy engine, the app engine, the patch engine. We want to add more and more capabilities there to reduce your reliance on scripts. So I would say long-term, you'll see us do 2 things. One, we'll continue to invest into Copilot to making that scripting process easier for tier 1 and your MVP types. And then 2, Matt and I pretty regularly analyze what people are using scripts for, to really ask ourselves the fundamental question in the product: why do you need a script for whatever action you're taking? So we'll continue to evolve the product to try to natively build those capabilities to remove that dependency as much as possible.
Yeah, that's
maybe Matt, I'll add one more, because you were asking broadly about how AI simplifies and helps reduce complexity. In general, there are 2 types of experiences that we are adding in Intune and have already started adding. One is the generic assistive chat. And this is where Jason was referring to natural language and interacting. Imagine a helper that is there with you through your day-to-day and helps you answer generic questions. Then there is the agentic approach. The agentic approach really is about digital assistants that specialize in very specific missions or tasks. You'll see more and more of those. So the combination of the generic chat and the mission-specific agents is really all about helping IT pros simplify their day-to-day and reduce this complexity. And scripting is one example, as Jason was referencing.
Yeah, I love the simplifying like these complex actions and things people need to do, because, most of us in the IT world have had jobs because of the complexity around needing to actually take action on devices. I think some things that are also interesting to me, we recently introduced the Explorer functionality in Intune that gives you the ability of a new way to browse your information, browse your data in your tenant. And this is just like a whole new way to discover data. And I don't know how many people have looked at it or seen it yet. I mean, we're seeing pretty good usage on our side, but, Mayan, can you talk a little bit about the team's view on Explorer and how they see it sort of simplifying the admin experience, and what sort of impact that can have on, an admin who doesn't know where to find the data or doesn't know how to, browse their environment?
Yeah, of course. And I hope everybody's had a chance to interact with Explorer. If you're not, please go and try it out. Explorer is all about making Intune data accessible, and then the ability to analyze, to filter, and to take action on top. And all of this is in a natural language interface that brings the data to you. Now, when we look at where we're moving forward with Explorer, one is just making sure that the data that we have there is complete. So adding more and more capabilities. Maybe I'll give you an example. An example would be, give me a view of all iOS devices in my organization that are on the latest version, right? So you want to make sure that the data is there and available, and pulling in the data and making sure that Explorer understands what the latest iOS version is, right? So that means pulling from different sources. So bringing in the data, enriching it with third-party data, and then making sure that there is a friendly natural language experience on top of that. This is what will really make the experience holistic, and would allow you basically to just interact with Explorer for any type of data operation that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, Chris from the tech community posted a question, and this feeds right into it. How can Intune provide business insight into who's using a computer compared to who is enrolled or set up that same machine? And those are the sort of insights, right, that Explorer can join together these data sets around, like who's using versus who enrolled and across different workloads, and start to provide that value, I think, right? That's more or less some of the data things that we can do with Explorer.
That's right. And it's about we're going back to simplifying the complexity. You don't need to be a KQL expert in order to pull this data. It's just available to you in natural language.
Awesome.
Matt, if I could add one thing there that I think is interesting. Look, we look at our telemetry around usage in the console every week, and we always see the same trends. The number one used page in Intune is the device details blade. And what we believe is happening is people are searching through these blades to find things, the complex joins that Matt talked about. Rather than having folks have to navigate multiple places in the blade, search for things, and go spelunking, we want to give you a one-stop shop destination. Ask it whatever you want. Hey, show me all my devices that aren't encrypted. Hey, show me all my users that aren't logged in but enrolled with a different account. All of these types of queries that you have to navigate across the blades to find information today, we want to simplify, where you can just go to Explorer, ask whatever it is you're looking for, and get a very quick answer. So we think it's going to give you an easier way to simplify how you find things in the portal.
Yeah, these are great points, Jason. I think that leads sort of into my next topic that I wanted to talk about. When we go into new experiences to explore data, a couple things have to change, right? The way that we view or interact with this data has to change. And then that starts to lead to bigger core fabric changes for Intune to make sure that we can support these new experiences. So, from the Intune side, what can you summarize a little bit about how you view the core changes we're making in the platform and the investments we're making there to not just support AI, right?
Yeah.
But, these are new challenges for admins, regardless of the mechanism you're using to access this data and access, the management surface. So can you talk a little bit about how you think about those investments and what we're doing there?
Yeah, sure. One of the first things we learned when we started experimenting with AI in Intune is it shines a really bright light on any challenges you have inside the core platform. So if you start thinking about what you need for AI to effectively reason over Intune, you think about things like structured versus unstructured data, or you think about things like latency, You start to look at what workloads are in the cloud. You start thinking about safe deployment. All of these things are really the keys to unlocking AI value. Mayan talked about kind of two categories of assistive experiences and autonomous remediation experiences. In order to deliver either of those, there are certain prerequisites that we have to have in place in the product. So for us, as we're thinking about AI readiness, we've not just looked at the problem for from a lens of what are the AI capabilities we can introduce, but what are the core capabilities we need in the platform itself. So like one of the things you'll hear us reinforce this year at Ignite is now is the time to go cloud native. You have to be cloud native to take advantage of any of these AI capabilities. You need the patch, the app, the policy, all of those workloads have to be in the cloud so that we have the data available for AI to reason over it. So one of the first things we're kind of trying to help people understand is the first step to getting to AI value in Intune is you have to be cloud native, move all of your workloads over to the cloud. The second thing is we're trying to really look at the challenges in the platform that could slow down AI adoption. So as an example, one of the things we spoke about at Workplace Ninja this year was the improvements we're making with latency, where we now have 10-fold better device check-in time. So you're not getting stale data, you're getting fresh data inside the platform. We're also investing in things like making our multi-admin approval framework more robust. So whether it's the latency, the cloud native workload, or kind of these core foundational platform things, we're really focused on looking at AI readiness holistically, end to end, and tackling anything in the platform that may stand in the way of folks being able to take advantage of some of these experiences Mayan mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome. So often this is the work that, sometimes won't make it on a slide and make a big splash, but this is the stuff that's super important to our infrastructure and being able to support all these experiences that we want to deliver to customers. So incredible. Speaking of delivering these new experiences to customers, we had a few questions in the chat and in tech community on, things like enterprise app management and how we're making investments there. Specifically in enterprise app management, how do we make decisions about what apps we add to the catalog and what investments are we making in products like endpoint privilege management? I don't know if you want to take that one or sort of, give us a insight into how we think about those investments.
Yeah, so one of our big focuses is on Intune Suite. So Matt, you mentioned EAM and EPM in particular, and I think there was a question in the chat about Adobe support in EAM. So with enterprise app management, we just crossed 1,000 apps. So that's a pretty big milestone for the team. We feel like 1,000 gets us to critical mass. We think when the catalog's fully populated, we'll be looking at something like 3,000, 3,500 apps. The way we've approached the backlog for EAM is to really unlock different app types as we go through the roadmap. So as an example, one of the things we just released was pre and post install script support. The next batch we're looking at is really centered around what we call in-app handling. So the idea there is for a lot of these apps to auto update. If a user is using an app, you need to shut down that app before you can update it. So we're adding that in-app handling support where if an app's open, we can shut it down and then upgrade it. And then to the question in chat about Adobe. So the reason we don't support Adobe in the catalog today is because it's updated through an MSP. So one of the next big category unlocks we have coming is to add support for MSPs inside EAM. So the way you guys will see us approach the roadmap is really twofold there. One, we do have a website and we can post the URL in the chat, but there's a place for you to submit the apps you want to see added. So we'll go through those one by one and add apps that way. And then two, we're looking at what I would call these kind of categorical unlocks. So apps that need in-app handling will unlock that category. Apps that have MSPs will unlock that category. And then anything we do, we've built a fully autonomous test harness now where we can validate all of these apps, which we think will enable us to add apps much more quickly to the catalog. So just one example, likewise, we have a similar roadmap for EPM, Cloud PKI, all of the various suite capabilities. So folks have particular suite questions they're interested in learning more about, feel free to put those in chat and happy to take those.
And that's awesome. I mean, I think, one thing that sort of resonated me with everything we're talking about so far is that, a lot of it has broad applicability to Windows. And I'm starting to think about, how do we think about scenarios that are cross-platform, maybe for Mac OS. I mean, I know we got a great Mac OS investment roadmap. The team is just delivering stuff so quickly. Do you want to spend a few minutes talking about the stuff that we're doing with Mac OS and cross-plat specifically? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is I still meet way too many customers that aren't aware we manage Mac. So guys, first and foremost, if you're not managing your Macs with Intune, now is the time. We're ready. We can fully manage apps on par with any solution you may have previously been using. We just GA'd Platform SSO. The big project right now is Cloud Labs for Mac. That's coming out very soon. One of the things that I think I saw in the chat earlier, but important to know how we think about Mac, we embrace DDM first. So if you guys aren't familiar, DDM is Declarative Device Management. We are in the process of moving over all of our management capabilities to DDM. I would say we're probably furthest ahead in this regard in the industry. And we spend a lot of time with Apple talking through how to make DDM kind of the standard way to manage all payloads on Mac. So if you guys haven't checked it out, whether it's conditional access, kind of file vault encryption, whether it's policy apps patch, I mean, you name it, we've got full-fledged support for Mac. And I think we've grown something like 400% year over year for the last 2 years. So we see continued growth there from a Mac perspective as well.
Yeah, this is great. So, we have a question coming in from the tech community. Is there a plan for Intune to check in with devices faster, to run install apps, config policy, et cetera? So I think there's two parts of this question. I think that'll be the first part of this question, and I'm inferring here because I don't have much more context than what I just said. But based on inference here, I think there's two parts of this. How do we get stuff to the platform faster and better insight, so that way admins know when things are assigned to devices? And I want to do them in reverse. So Maayan, I know that we've been focused on adding more data to Explorer to start to understand what's assigned to devices when. So can you talk a little bit about how we might be able to drive deeper insight into what's being deployed to the platform through Explorer and what type of questions we have there?
So I know we're almost at time, so I'll go through this quickly, but essentially, Matt, it's what you were talking about. It's the ability to pull data faster and to have richer, broader data. I'm not going to go into specific examples in the interest of time, but that is the direction.
Okay, great. And then Jason, just to finish it off, I mean, faster apps installing, more insight. This sounds like all the investments we're making in core platform, right?
Yeah, so Matt and I talked about it earlier, but just to set context, about 70% of our engineering capacity goes towards the core platform. So one of our big projects right now is improving latency. The way devices check in with Intune, it's either scheduled or we send a push notification for that device to check in. Just to give you guys an idea of some of the metrics here, like I saw a dashboard from one of our scale units where we took it from 2 hours average to sub 5 minutes average to get those push notifications out. So what that's going to translate for you is you're going to start seeing devices check in much, much faster. So we'll continue to add investments in that area to make sure that all of your policies and payload delivery are as close to near real time as we can get.
That's great. Well, we are coming up on time here. We got about 35 seconds left. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to plug a few things here. The first off is we have 3 more sessions, I believe, where you can ask questions on things like AI, cross-platform management, endpoint security and policy. Make sure if you have any questions in those areas, you attend those sessions. We got some of our colleagues on there who are just fantastic. And then make sure that if you have any other additional questions we didn't get to, we'll be answering them on the tech community page. Feel free to post there and we'll get to them as soon as we possibly can. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jason, Maayan, and we'll talk to you all later.